Your baby cannot say, "I love you." Not yet. Maybe not for another year or two. But they have been telling you from the very first days of their life in a language that predates every spoken word in human history. A language made entirely of behavior, of tiny, specific, easily missed gestures that, once you know what they mean, will completely change how you see every ordinary moment you spend with them. Some of these behaviors are ones you've noticed without knowing what they meant. Some are so subtle you may have never caught them at all. And some, I promise you, are going to make you want to put down whatever you're doing and go find your baby right now. This video is about the 10 behaviors that researchers have identified as the clearest, most specific signals of deep attachment between an infant and their caregiver. Not the obvious ones, not the crying when you leave or the smiling when you arrive. Everyone knows those. These are the rarer ones, the ones that only happen when the bond is deep, the ones your baby is doing right now, for you specifically, that they do not do for anyone else in the world. Before we start, I want to ask you something. Think about one thing your baby does that feels like it might mean something. A specific gesture, a look, a moment that keeps happening and that you can't quite explain. Hold that in your mind as we go through this list. And at the end, drop it in the comments. Because I want to know, and because other parents reading those comments are going to recognize their own baby in what you describe. Let's start with the one that most parents have never heard explained. 1. They synchronize their breathing with yours. You're holding your baby. They're calm, settled, pressed against your chest. And if you were measuring both of your breathing patterns in that moment, which researchers have done in a number of remarkable studies, you would find something that seems almost impossible. Their breathing is synchronizing with yours. Not immediately, not in the first weeks, when the nervous system is still too immature for this level of attunement. But as the bond deepens, as your baby accumulates thousands of hours of being held by you specifically, their respiratory rhythm begins to mirror yours, unconsciously, automatically, as if their body has learned, through repetition, that your rhythm is safe to follow. This is called physiological synchrony, and it is one of the most extraordinary documented phenomena in attachment research. A study from Bar-Ilan University in Israel, led by neuroscientist Ruth Feldman, found that parent-infant pairs who had developed strong attachment bonds showed measurable synchrony across multiple physiological systems, including heart rate, breathing patterns, and cortisol levels, during periods of close physical contact. The synchrony was not present with strangers. It was specific to the attachment relationship. What this means is that your baby's body knows you, not in a metaphorical sense, in a literal, measurable, physiological sense. Their nervous system has been calibrated against yours. When they are on your chest, their biology follows yours toward calm. The next time you're holding your baby and they seem to settle, when the fussing stops and they go quiet and their body relaxes against you, notice your own breathing. It is probably slow and steady, and theirs, pressed against you, is matching it. That is not nothing. That is one of the most intimate things two living bodies can do together, and your baby is doing it with you. 2. They reach for your face with both hands. Watch what happens when your baby is in your arms and you bring your face close to theirs. In the early months, they stare. Later, somewhere around 3 to 5 months, as their motor control develops enough to act on what they want, they reach, both hands, directly toward your face. They grab your cheeks, they pull at your nose. They press their palms against your forehead and study you with an intensity that feels almost scientific. Most parents experience this as cute and slightly uncomfortable. What it actually is, developmentally, neurologically, is one of the most significant behaviors in the catalogue of early attachment. Your face is the most important object in your baby's world. Not a toy, not a light, not any of the things we buy to stimulate infant development. Your face. Research from developmental neuroscientist Andrew Meltzoff established that from the first hours of life, human infants show preferential attention to faces over any other visual stimulus. And as the weeks pass, it is not just any face, it is your face specifically. Your baby's brain is building a detailed, constantly updated neural representation of you. Your expressions, sus your micro-movements, the specific geography of your features. When they reach for your face with both hands, they are doing something that their brain is driving them toward. They are gathering data. They are updating the representation. They are making the map of you more detailed, more accurate, more complete. But here is the part that makes this behavior specific to love. Babies reach for faces they find significant. Not every face. The brain is selective about this from very early on. The faces that receive the two-handed reach are the faces that have been associated, through thousands of interactions, with safety, with warmth, with a specific quality of attention that says, "You matter to me." Your baby is reaching for your face because your face, to their developing brain, is the most important thing in the world. Map it with me. They are saying, "Show me you again." 3. They save their first smiles for you. The social smile, the genuine neurologically driven smile that is a response to another person rather than gas or reflex, emerges somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks, and when it arrives, it is not distributed equally. It goes to you first. Research on early social smiling consistently shows that the first genuine social smiles are directed at the primary caregiver before they are directed at anyone else, not because the baby cannot see other faces, because the primary caregiver's face has been associated through weeks of close contact with the specific combination of stimuli that the developing social brain responds to most powerfully. Your voice, your smell, your warmth, the specific rhythm of your interactions. All of it has been building toward this moment. The first smile is not random. It is earned. It is the brain's first social recognition. The first moment it says, in the only language available to it at 6 weeks old, "I know you," and knowing you feels good. There is something in developmental research called the still face paradigm, an experimental procedure in which a parent, after a period of normal warm interaction with their baby, suddenly adopts a completely neutral, expressionless face. The baby's response is immediate and distressing. They try everything, smiling more broadly, reaching, vocalizing, to re-engage the parent. When nothing works, they show visible distress, turning away, frowning, sometimes crying. What this experiment reveals is how deeply your baby is invested in your responsiveness, how much your face, animated and engaged, matters to them. The smile they give you is not just an expression, it is an invitation. It is your baby saying, "Be here with me. Be the person I already know you are." And hey, if your baby has already given you that first smile, I want to know. When was it? Where were you? Drop it in the comments, because those moments deserve to be written down somewhere. 4. They stop crying the moment they hear your voice, before you even touch them. You walk into the room where your baby's crying. You're still 3 feet away. You have not yet picked them up, and the crying stops. Not because the problem was solved, not because anything changed in their physical experience, because they heard you. This is one of the most reliable and least appreciated signals of deep attachment. The baby who is calmed by your voice alone, before physical contact, before any change in their immediate situation, has developed something extraordinary. They have developed what researchers call an auditory attachment bond. Your voice, specifically, has been associated through thousands of exposures with a reliable resolution of distress. Their nervous system has learned to respond to the sound of you the way it responds to actual safety. Research published in the journal Proceedings of the Royal Society found that hearing their mother's voice activated the same neural regions in infants that physical proximity and touch activated, specifically the regions associated with stress reduction and reward. The voice alone was enough to begin the neurological process of calming, not any voice, not a soothing voice in general, the specific voice that had been associated through the accumulated experience of attachment with being cared for. This is why your baby cries differently for you than for others, why the crying that persists through everyone else's attempts to soothe stops the moment you speak. It is not manipulation. It is neuroscience. Their brain has filed your voice under safety. In a way it has filed no other sound. The next time your voice stops their crying before you've even reached them, notice it. That is your baby's nervous system recognizing you across a room. That is attachment made audible. 5. They watch the door you left through. You put your baby down. You walk out of the room. And if you could watch them in the seconds after you leave, which researchers have in attachment studies, you would see something that is equal parts heartbreaking and extraordinary. They watch the door, not randomly, not because the door is visually interesting, because you went through it. And somewhere in their developing brain, in the emerging architecture of object permanence, in the early understanding that things that disappear can come back, they have begun to understand that the door is where you went, and if you come back, the door is where you will come from. This behavior typically emerges around 7 to 9 months, as object permanence begins to develop. Before that, when you leave, in a neurological sense, you simply cease to exist. There is no mental representation that persists in your absence. But as the brain develops the capacity to hold a mental image of you even when you're not visible, the behavior changes. The baby does not just experience your absence, they anticipate your return. And the door is the focus of that anticipation. Research from developmental psychologist Sylvia Goldin Meadow on infant gaze behavior during separation found that babies who showed sustained door watching after caregiver departure were significantly more likely to be classified as securely attached in subsequent strange situation assessments. The door watching was a behavioral marker of a specific cognitive and emotional achievement, the beginning of the understanding that you exist when you cannot be seen, that you are coming back, Your baby watching the door you left through is not clinginess. It is one of the most sophisticated things their brain currently knows how to do. It is them holding you in mind across distance. It is love taking the form of the most complex cognitive operation available to them. 6. They imitate your expressions, especially the subtle ones. Stick out your tongue at a newborn. They will stick out their tongue back. This is one of the earliest and most studied examples of neonatal imitation. The remarkable ability of human infants to mirror facial expressions from the very first days of life. But this early imitation is broad and relatively indiscriminate. What develops over the following months, and what is specific to the attachment relationship, is something more refined, more selective, more personal. Your baby begins to imitate not just obvious expressions but subtle ones. The slight raise of your eyebrow, the specific way your mouth moves when you're about to laugh, the micro-expression of delight that crosses your face when they do something that surprises you. They are not just mirroring, they are learning you, building a detailed internal model of your emotional repertoire that they can then draw on to predict your responses, to match your state, to be in the specific kind of sync with you that only develops between people who have spent thousands of hours in close attentive contact. Research on facial mimicry in infants from the University of Washington found that by 4 months, infants were showing preferential imitation of their primary caregivers, more rapid, more accurate, more sustained mimicry of the attachment figure compared to unfamiliar adults. The imitation was not just behavioral, it was relational. The baby's mirror neuron system was most activated by the face it knew best. Watch your baby's face the next time you're playing with them. Really watch it. You will see yourself in it, your expressions, your rhythms, your emotional signature, reflected back at you in miniature. That reflection is not accidental. It is the product of months of devoted attention. It is your baby saying, in the only language available, I have been studying you. I know your face by heart. 7. They bring you things. Somewhere around 9 to 12 months, something new appears in your baby's behavioral repertoire. They pick something up, a toy, a piece of food, a random object they found on the floor, and they bring it to you, they hold it out, they wait. This is called proto-declarative pointing or object offering. And it is one of the most significant developmental milestones in the first year, not just as a cognitive achievement, but as a relational one. Because your baby is not bringing you the object because they want you to have it. They are bringing it to you because they want to share the experience of it with you. This is the beginning of joint attention, the ability to share focus on the same thing with another person, to say, look at this with me. And joint attention, developmental researchers universally agree, is one of the most important capacities in early social development. It is the foundation of language, of empathy, of the ability to inhabit another person's perspective. But here is what makes object offering specific to love. Babies offer objects to the people they are most attached to. Research from the University of Maryland on infant object sharing behavior found that the primary attachment figure receives significantly more object offers than secondary caregivers or unfamiliar adults. The baby was not just sharing, they were choosing who to share with, and they were consistently choosing you. The next time your baby holds something out toward you, even if it is a soggy piece of cracker that has been in their fist for 20 minutes, receive it like the gift it actually is. Because in the language of infant attachment, that is exactly what it is. It is your baby saying, this thing is interesting to me, and you are the person I want to be interested in it with. 8. They use you as a mirror for their own emotions. Your baby does something, manages to grab a toy, pulls themselves to standing, or figures out how to make a sound they've been trying to make, and before they celebrate, before they react, they look at you. They are not looking to see if you noticed exactly. They are looking to find out how to feel about what just happened. This is social referencing, the behavior of using a caregiver's emotional response as information about how to interpret a situation. And it is one of the clearest behavioral signatures of a deep attachment bond. Because social referencing is not distributed equally, babies reference the people they trust most, the people whose emotional assessments they have learned, through experience, to find reliable. When your baby looks at you after an achievement, they are doing something profound. They are outsourcing a part of their emotional processing to you. They are saying, I don't have enough experience to know how to feel about this, but you do, and you are the person whose read of the situation I trust most. Research from the classic visual cliff experiments, where infants were placed on a transparent surface over a perceived drop and observed as they looked to their caregivers for guidance, demonstrated the power of this referencing with striking clarity. When caregivers showed warm, encouraging expressions, babies crossed. When caregivers showed fearful expressions, babies refused. The baby's behavior was determined almost entirely by the caregiver's emotional signal. Your face is your baby's emotional compass. The expression you show when they try something new, when they succeed, when they fail, when they encounter something uncertain, that expression is being used as data. It is being used to calibrate how they feel about themselves and about the world. That is not a small responsibility. It is one of the most significant ones you have. Show them that their achievements are worth celebrating, not with performance, with genuine delight. Because genuine delight, the real thing, not the managed parenting version, is what their brain is looking for. And when they find it in your face, they file it under, "I did something worth being glad about." 9. They settle only in a specific position with you. Every parent learns this. There is a specific way of holding your baby that works. A specific position, your left shoulder, or the crook of your right arm, or pressed against your chest at a certain angle, that settles them when nothing else does. And other people, holding them in what appears to be the same way, cannot replicate it. This is not a coincidence, and it is not about the position. Your baby has learned, through thousands of repetitions, the specific combination of sensory input that means you, your heartbeat at a specific rhythm, your smell at a specific intensity, the temperature of your body at a specific warmth, the quality of your muscle tension, the specific micro-movements you make when you breathe, the particular way your voice resonates through your chest when you speak or hum. All of it together forms a sensory signature that is uniquely you, and your baby's nervous system has been calibrated to it with extraordinary precision. Research on infant sensory recognition, particularly on the role of the olfactory system in attachment formation, has found that babies can identify their primary caregiver by smell alone within days of birth. By several months, this recognition has expanded across every sensory channel. The baby being held by you is receiving a full spectrum confirmation. This is the right person. Every sensory system is saying yes. This is why the position matters less than the person. The angle your baby settles at when someone else holds them is not the wrong angle. It is the absence of you. And there is no position that substitutes for the presence of the person whose sensory signature their nervous system has learned as home. When your baby settles specifically and only in your arms, in your specific way, that is one of the most precise measurements of attachment that exists. Every sensory system they have is saying, "This is the one." 10. They come back to you after exploring. Watch a securely attached baby in a new environment. They do not cling to you. They do not refuse to move. They explore. They crawl toward the interesting thing, investigate it, interact with it. And then, at intervals, predictably, they come back. They return to you. They touch base, physically or with a glance, and then they go again. This pattern, explore, return, is the behavioral signature of what John Bowlby called the secure base. You are the base. The exploration is made possible by your presence, and the return is not failure. It is not evidence that your baby is too attached or insufficiently independent. It is the engine of independence. The return to you is what makes the going out possible. Mary Ainsworth's strange situation research, one of the most replicated studies in developmental psychology, demonstrated this with precision. Securely attached babies used their caregivers as a base for exploration, returned to them when stressed, and were comforted by reunion. It was not the babies who never left their caregiver who showed the healthiest development. It was the ones who left and came back, who explored and returned, who trusted the base enough to venture away from it. The returning is love. Every time your baby crawls across the room and then turns around and comes back to you, for no apparent reason, when nothing is wrong, when they were perfectly happy in the middle of their exploration, they are doing something that their biology is driving them toward. They are checking in with the person who makes the world safe enough to explore. You are the reason they can go out, and the coming back, small, frequent, easy, unremarkable, is how they tell you. 10 behaviors, none of them dramatic. Some of them so ordinary that they happen dozens of times a day without you stopping to understand what they are. Synchronized breathing, a face grabbed with 2 hands, a door watched in silence, an object held out like a gift, a return across a room for no apparent reason. These are not random behaviors. They are the vocabulary of a love that predates language by millions of years. It is an attachment system that evolution built with one purpose: to bind the vulnerable and the capable together tightly enough that the vulnerable survives to become capable themselves. Your baby is using every behavior on this list on you, right now, today. In the ordinary moments you move through without thinking twice. Now you know what they mean. I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 did you recognize most immediately? Which one are you going to look for today? Which one made you stop and think about your baby in a way you hadn't before? Tell me in the comments. I read them, and the people reading them after you, the parents who are going to find this video at 2 a.m. with a baby on their chest. They need to read what you write. Tell me which one, and then go find your baby. Subscribe to Mindful Parenting. We'll be here every week.